Hello, my name is Jaden Blacksky. A few years back, when I was about 11, something happened to my little foster brother Eli that still makes my skin crawl every time we talk about it. We all grew up on a tiny Cree reserve in northern Manitoba, York Landing. Houses are spread out, and behind them is nothing but thick bush and trails for miles. One warm, rainy summer night in 2021, me 11, my sister Leona 10, our older foster brother Mason 10, and little Eli, he was only 8 or 9, decided to play manhunt after dark. It was already past 10 p.m., pouring rain, but we didn't care. We all picked Eli to be it because he was the smallest and easiest to gang up on. He covered his eyes and counted to 30 while the rest of us scattered into the wet forest behind the houses. Leona and I ran together toward the big gravel pit the band uses for road work. The rain had turned the sand into thick mud. We crouched down in some bushes near the tree line and waited, trying not to giggle too loud. Eli's side of the story is the scary part. He started hunting, took the main trail that leads down to the gravel pit, then cut left onto the neighbor's path that loops back toward the houses. In the rain and darkness, he thought he spotted 2 kids walking ahead of him, exactly our height, our builds, wearing the same kind of hoodies Leona and I had on. He grinned, thinking he'd found us easy, and started creeping after the figures. The 2 figures never ran. They just walked slow, side by side, like they wanted him to follow. Then one of them turned its head and looked right at him. Eli said the second it noticed him, both figures stopped dead. He dropped flat into the mud, heart pounding. A few moments later he swore he heard Leona and me calling his name, soft, sing-song, coming from deeper in the bush. Eli, come find us. That's when he backed up, terrified, and bolted toward the house from our side. After 10 minutes we hadn't heard anyone scream found, so Leona and I gave up hiding and jogged back to the house. Mason was already there. Eli wasn't. We waited maybe 2 minutes, then all started yelling his name and fanning out. We found him a couple minutes later walking out of the neighbor's yard, soaked, crying his eyes out. We hugged him and he could barely talk at first. He told us everything I just said, how the 2 figures looked exactly like me and Leona, how they turned at the same time, how they tried to call him deeper into the trails when he hid. We ran inside and told the adults. They laughed it off, said he probably saw shadows or got spooked by his own reflection in the rain. But we know what Eli felt, and sometimes, late at night, I still think about what would have happened if that little 8-year-old boy had kept following us down that dark trail instead of running the other way. Whatever was wearing our faces that night, it didn't want to play manhunt. My name is Cole Rivers. Back in fall 2019, when I was 19 and studying in Portland, my buddy Tyler talked me into a quick weekend camping trip down south along the Oregon coast. We found this random pull-off deep in the woods, super secluded, no cell service, no other cars. Perfect, we thought. While I was setting up my tent, I noticed a handmade sign nailed to a cedar tree. Private property, no trespassing. Someone had scratched out the rest of the original warning and spray-painted underneath in dripping red letters. Die. I laughed, showed Tyler, and said, "That's some hardcore Halloween decoration." Tyler didn't laugh. His face went stiff. He told me we should probably leave, but I called him a baby and said nobody's actually out here. So we stayed. We built a fire, roasted hot dogs, messed around until late, then crawled into our tents and passed out. I don't know what time it was, maybe 2 or 3 a.m., when I woke up to the sound of slow footsteps circling us. Crunch, pause, like someone testing every stick before they stepped on it. I shook Tyler awake. He heard it too. We lay there dead silent, staring at the tent wall. Then the zipper started moving, real slow, tooth by tooth. The flap opened just enough for a head to push in. The guy's face was black with months of filth. Eyes blood red, teeth rotted almost to points. He smiled the slowest, sickest smile I've ever seen, like he'd been waiting years for this exact moment. In a low rasp he whispered, "Didn't you boys read the sign?" His right hand slid inside the tent, holding something long, yellow-white, and sharp. A bone, looked like a deer femur someone had spent weeks grinding down into a jagged spear. Tyler screamed so loud it hurt my ears. I reacted without thinking, shoved the guy's face as hard as I could. He stumbled back, I exploded out of the tent, and he swung that bone spear at my head. I barely ducked, felt it whistle over my hair. "Start the car," I yelled. Tyler was already sprinting. The maniac came at me again. I kicked him square in the chest, turned, and ran faster than I've ever run in my life. Dove headfirst into the passenger seat as Tyler floored it. Gravel and mud sprayed everywhere. We left the tent, sleeping bags, everything. Didn't stop driving till we hit the highway and saw other headlights. 3 days later, we went back with a cop buddy of Tyler's to grab our stuff. The tent was still there, except now the entire thing was soaked in fresh red spray paint that spelled die over and over. Inside, on our sleeping bags, were 2 gutted animal carcasses, raccoons maybe. They'd been opened up, ribs cracked outward, organs arranged in neat little piles. The smell made us gag from 20 feet away. We grabbed what we could, torched the rest, and swore we'd never go back. To this day, I still don't know if that guy was just some psycho hermit, or something that had been guarding those woods a lot longer than any human should. My name is Noah Gray. This happened in summer 2020, right in the middle of lockdown. My parents decided to get the whole family out of the city for a week, so we booked this huge old resort up north near Thompson, Manitoba. It looked like a giant 3-story gray house that had been turned into cabins. We were literally the only family that showed up. Everything else was closed because of COVID. We got one massive room on the 2nd floor. 3 bunk beds, 1 king bed, enough space for all 10 of us, me 9 at the time. My parents, my 2 teenage cousins Rylan and Sky, my auntie Lisa, her husband Darren, and their little kids Mia and Levi. First day was normal, swimming, campfire, whatever. Second night changed everything. Around 2 a.m. the knocking started, slow, heavy knocks on the door. Knock, knock, knock. My dad and Uncle Darren woke up first, then the rest of us. The door was locked and chained, so at first we just froze and listened. Uncle Darren got on the floor and looked under the door. There was about a 2-inch gap. Knocking kept going, but no feet, no shadow, nothing blocking the hallway light. We were whispering, scared out of our minds. I fell back asleep somehow because I was little. Next night, same thing, but worse. Knocking again, louder. Then it stopped. A second later, the doorknob rattled hard, like someone was shaking it in anger. When it couldn't get in, whatever was out there started stomping. Boom, boom, boom. Heavy footsteps walking back and forth right outside our door. The whole floor shook. Dad looked under the door again. Still no shadow, no legs. The stomping faded down the hallway. When it was finally quiet, Dad grabbed a flashlight, undid the chain, and stepped out to check. Uncle Darren stayed inside, watching the gap under the door. I'll never forget Uncle Darren's face. He went white as paper and whispered, "I can see your dad's legs. I can see his shadow clear as day, but whatever was walking before had nothing." Dad came back 30 seconds later, slammed the door, locked it, and wouldn't talk until morning. Next day we packed up fast. While we were loading the cars, Mom and Auntie asked the only worker there, an old guy at the front desk, if some drunk guest had been wandering around at night. He looked at us weird and said, "Ma'am, you're the only people that have been here in 3 weeks. Everyone else canceled. There's nobody on this property but you." We left that same hour and never went back. Sometimes I still wonder, was it a person who somehow hid their legs and shadow every time we looked? Or was something else trying to get into that room? Something that only wanted in when it knew a bunch of kids were sleeping inside?